Are you going to go with a 64-channel eMotion LV1 setup from Waves, or are you going to go with something like the Avantis with deep plugins and the Avantis stage boxes? Because price tag wise, they wind up in a pretty similar place around that $20,000 to $25,000 range.
I mean, if you did 2 fit controllers and 2 touchscreens, you basically have the Avantis with the Waves, ecosystem. Like you have, that's the form factor you're talking about. Yeah, I saw this update in Propresenter 7.14, but I did see 2 things I thought were worth kind of keeping your eye on: capture presets, and then they added a action for your capturings. Adam Baranek has found yet another amazing tool to have in kind of your tool belt as a worship or tech leader.
All right, boys, let's give you a hypothetical situation where, let's say you have 20 to 25K budget for a more premium mixing solution for your church. Are you gonna go with a 64-channel eMotion LV1 setup from Waves for front of house? Or are you gonna go with something like the Avantis with deep plugins and the Avantis stage boxes? Because price tag wise, they wind up in a pretty similar place around that $20,000 to $25,000 range. And I guess this isn't just a hypothetical, right, Luke? Tell us about, this is actually a client that we're working with right now, helping them navigate this decision.
Yeah, we're yet rescuing another church from the Yamaha M7 CL days with these big Tyrannosaurus Rexes of consoles. And they were great consoles back in the day, but they're pretty massive and we're seeing their limitations. So, channel count, we're seeing limitations of the expansion cards that were made for them. And so this one is starting to die. Adam and I actually went out with Jonathan to his church last year in Glenwood Springs, and we spent some time really optimizing that M7 for as much as we could, spend as much time as we could, really, helping it kind of prolong the life a little bit. But Jonathan and his church are ready and got approval to move forward with an upgrade. And so they kind of brought to us the desire to do the Waves eMotion LV1 system because they were already using the Waves sound grid to process plugins, do auto tune, use things like F6 and torque with their Yamaha M7. And so they already have some of that Waves experience, and they really like the idea of a couple touch screens using, all the processing that Waves has to offer. So we kind of brought to them this eMotion LV1 option and doing a couple touch screens, couple fit controllers, kind of throwing it together. So yeah, I'm interested to hear your guys' perspective. I know I have my opinions on the matter, but what comes to your mind when you consider the 2 options there?
Well, and leave your comments down below if you have an opinion on this as you're watching this video or listening. Let us know what would you choose.
And I'll caveat that too with the other option that Jonathan was considering was the Avantis. And so he's considering, because the Avantis has a Waves sound grid card, you can really run Waves and all the plugins that you'd be running on the LV1 system. The Avantis just the same. So he's kind of like, do I go with the normal kind of Allen and Heath ecosystem and just integrate Waves, or do I integrate a holistic system with LV1? So yeah, kick it back to you.
Well, I was going to say what's cool about this situation is I helped install at the church I was worship pastor an LV1 system, and at Luke's church, there's an Avantis with Waves plugins on a SoundGrid server, which I've mixed at. So we've got experience with both of these setups.
Yep.
Adam, you probably have the most experience with both.
Yeah, and I never used the fit controller, whereas Jake has had the opportunity to use the fit controller. So when I was at my church in Illinois, we just used touchscreens for mixing, and we didn't have any problems with that. That, like, everyone was like, hey, this feels good. Like, it was a jump to go from faders to this, but because of the way that we were processing all the channels, like, you get the kick nice and punchy and it's compressed, and that it's a like thick signal coming through. You're not having to like keep your finger on the fader and, be, messing with the kick the whole time. We had vocal or bass rider on the bass. So you're not like fingers on faders watching the band and making minute adjustments throughout the whole mix because of the plugins that we're able to utilize with the LV1 system. at Luke's church, it sounded great. Like we were using similar plug-in chains. So again, like I was, watching the band fingers on faders, but I wasn't constantly making minute adjustments throughout the whole mix. So Jake, I don't know if you remember, if we're talking touch screens versus faders, what your experience was like using the Fit.
I do like the Fit. I do think it's worth it especially if you're going to go out. I'll go all out with a 64 channel setup like this, especially for just having the quick tactile access to something for your lead vocalist. Especially, I like to ride my vocalist faders just manually. I like to ride my effects faders manually, and that's something I just don't prefer doing on a touchscreen. So I think the Fit is worth it. I would definitely lean more team LV1 because I really think like this is the future of mixing consoles. I do think there are some weaknesses to it. So I look at Allen and Heath ecosystem, and yeah, you're getting quality hardware, you're getting great preamps, you're getting the whole in-ear monitoring selection you have there with the personal mixers like the ME500s and the ME1. So that's what makes me more biased towards that side of it. With this Wave system, when it comes to setting up in-ear monitoring, there's a couple ways. Like, yeah, maybe they could have an X32 on stage or something to be their in-ear board. You'd have to get a Waves card for it. But at least they could then have, up to 8. I guess it wouldn't even be that much. Is it 16 mix buses or 8 stereo mixes? Or we can get enough. There's enough buses with this LV1 system to of course run your monitor mixes off of that, which is probably what they should do, and like that should be the initial thing to start with. But yeah, what we did at Grace Church with an LV1 is we had an M32 that was previously the main front of house mixing console to function as monitors, and that worked pretty well. But then again, I do think like I could solve a lot of musicians' monitors issues if I were running front of house and I made sure like their vocals and stuff are processed well for front of house. It's going to sound great in their ears. They can use the MyMon app on Waves to do all the balancing. You can use wireless units. You can pull out, from the stage box. You can use headphone amplifiers as well. So I would say if I had to choose, I would still go LV1 because it's still been by far my most most favorite mixing experience as a front of house engineer.
And the nice thing too about the LV1 is that it does ship with, similar to all the other consoles out there, it ships with onboard processing. So you're not just jumping into a pool of unlimited Waves plugins with, you've got to go figure it out. It comes with a stock EQ and a stock compressor, stock gate, like shipping on the server. So you've got a good, starting place a little bit. So my main beef, or my hesitation with LV1 for anybody, and again, I've not mixed on it, but I really like the idea of it, is that Waves is primarily a plugin company. They're not primarily a sound console company. And so when you look at people like Allen Heath or Behringer who are manufacturing consoles, and that's like their main, I guess Behringer makes all these other random, products too. But, if you look at maybe Allen and Heath as the example, I wonder like where Waves' priority is and kind of, the future of their company, and are they going to pour more R&D into the console moving forward, or is it going to kind of be an afterthought? But I really obviously it's been around since Adam was at his previous church mixing, and it's kept developing with the Fit and with the new servers and with the new stage boxes. So we can have a lot of confidence that it's not going anywhere for sure.
Yeah, and like Jeff Sandstrom, like he did use it for Chris Tomlin and Lauren Daigle and others. So it's like he trusted it enough on those shows that, and if you look at the tours that are using LV1, I just think that that's a testament to like, okay, these people wouldn't mess around and find out if this was good or not. Like they would do their due diligence to make sure like, okay, this is going to be solid. This is going to work for what I need it to before I trust to pass audio for thousands and thousands of people,
Yeah.
And now Waves has it was kind of controversial, the subscription model to their plugins, but I do think it simplifies it a lot. So monthly, $14.99 a month. Yeah, if you pay annually, it's even less expensive, like $249 a year. And I'm pretty sure this is pretty much every single plugin. Do they exclude any plugins?
No, you get everything. I think so, right?
Yeah, I'm curious, Luke, what do you use at at Storyline, because for Jonathan, when we set up the M7 with the waves, we just used, Torque for the drums,
Smack
the
Attack.
pitch shifter, Smack Attack for the drums, Waves, Tune, F6, Vocal Rider. I don't remember if we used anything else.
Yeah, that was it. And that was that was before the subscription model came out. And so we were piecemealing together what ones he wanted to buy. The main ones that we use at Storyline, we're using a Schleps channel now on some of the vocals. We're using some of the limiters and ultra maximizers for broadcast. And I think it's the L2 or the L3. We're also using quite a bit of SSL, channel strip processing. And then the ones I've really started to enjoy using are the R comps and the RVox.
Oh yeah. Use the one on guitar.
Yeah.
The AAX guitar one.
Yes. Yeah. All these are, the RDSer, the R comp, the Renaissance pack is pretty nice. And it's just super easy to use. It's one of those plugins that we throw on stuff, and it's got a pretty limited interface, and you just, that you can get pretty great sound with minimal effort, with it. So it's pretty cool. If you did 2 fit controllers and 2 touchscreens, you basically have the Avantis with the Waves, ecosystem. Like you have, that's the form factor you're talking about. So I would just be interested, is there a limitation to how many faders you can ride on the touchscreen? Does it have a certain limitation to how many faders you can control at one point?
No. I think maybe it depends on specifically the touchscreen, but I know like the Dell touchscreens, the planar, it's like you can have 2 fingers
10.
on 2 different faders, or isn't it 10 point or something like that?
Yep. Yeah, 10 point touch. Because I'm doing we call the poor man's LV1 for another student that's has fewer needs, and so we're just doing X32 rack, Dell touchscreen with a mini PC, 10 point touch, run the X32 edit app. So it's pretty neat. And like I said, I've used this, and we did the 10 point touch. But most of the time, if you're thinking about if you're mixing on a touchscreen, you're just like, maybe you've got 2 or 3 fingers on at a time, but you're not like putting all 10 fingers on at once when you're mixing.
Right.
No. So, it sounds like this particular church and Jonathan, the worship leader there, they're really leaning towards LV1. And I think, again, there's might be some downside of like, okay, how do you want to do in-ear mixing? Are you just going to rely on that MyMon app and doing it from that same console? But I think it'll be great at the end of the day.
At this price point and with these 2 options for this channel need, you can't make a bad decision with these 2 setups, right? Yep. They're going to both be great options for different reasons. I'm excited about it. Should be fun.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Before we continue on with the video, I want to tell you about our sponsor, the Churchfront Live Conference. It's a 2-day conference with keynotes and breakout sessions on topics like worship tech, worship theology, musicianship, and leadership. It is a great way to network with other like-minded ministry leaders in the Churchfront community. The sooner you purchase your Churchfront Live tickets, the greater the discount you will get with the early bird discount code. So head on over to churchfrontlive.com, use that early bird discount code at checkout, and I look forward to seeing you at the conference. Now let's get back to the video.
All right, who's got Propresenter pulled up? We got to talk about 7.14.
I can grab that. Let's see if they've got what's new.
Yeah, I saw this update in Propresenter 7.4, and I'm not one who geeks out about all the kind of micro, updates, but I did see 2 things I thought were worth kind of keeping your eye on, and I know would save me some time, which is capture presets. And then they added a action for your capturing. So that means that you can save your streaming presets, within your capture settings as something that you can load preemptively. And then in this menu of your actions, you now have a capture action. So this is pretty cool because you could put on a slide and it, could start your live stream for you. That way you're not, having a volunteer, like having to remember to go up and start that in that small little menu item. So I don't know. You guys feel like this is helpful?
Yeah, I can think of one use case already is I'm helping one of our students and they have multiple rooms. They have multiple times that they live stream, their Sunday morning service, but then they have different settings for their, Wednesday Bible study or their Thursday night worship or whatever. So this would be really helpful, especially if they're asking outside people to come in And so if you can just have a stream deck that says Wednesday night Bible study and it triggers opening up Propresenter, or it's automatically scheduled to start live streaming, and you can have it pull a certain camera through your ATEM switcher. So being able to just tell someone walk in and press this button, as opposed to here's a 30-minute training video on how to just get things started, I think is really useful for a lot of churches.
Yep. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I don't know about any of the other updates on 14, but these two stuck out, so I don't usually dive too deep into anything that I don't feel like applies to us. But yeah, take a look, see if you think it'd be helpful for you guys.
Just let me know when they come out with the update where you don't have to restart Propresenter 5 minutes before the service to solve all ills.
That's an eternity.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, speaking of the kind of set it and forget it presets, let's talk about that Facebook post that we saw on the Churchfront page. This is from Larry Brister. So he says, he's got a curious question. He's kind of in a that works, leave it alone. So they've got an SQ7, really stable worship team with musicians, same people, same instruments, same musicians playing every single week, same IEMs. And he's kind of asking the community, hey, I know it will never be like perfectly set it in stone and leave it, but if you save the scenes and the settings and the presets and everything's powered on, can't you assume that the front of house engineer will have to do minimal, interaction with the mix? Shouldn't it just be as great as it was last week? So yeah, this had a lot of good interaction. Curious what you guys think about that question.
I like the part where he said that sound engineers like to fiddle.
Yep. It depends on your definition of minimal, right? When he says minimal action at the board, because some people think minimal is, let me start, sweeping EQ bands and changing compression settings kind of for the fun of it, where it's like you're not really helping it, like the situation. Speaking to our situation at South Fellowship right now, most of it, like we have a template that's well dialed in, and our volunteers understand the EQ, and we've got a great treated room. Once the template is dialed in on the console and there's no major instrument or vocal changes, a lot of it is like fader mixing. And that's what I would consider a lot of the minimal changes that volunteers have to do, is like balancing vocals from song to song, balancing instruments throughout the song, depending on if there's a guitar solo or something, and then balancing effects in the appropriate place. So that's probably the most active mixing that our engineers are doing. But I've seen the situations, and I think it's more common where you're not starting from a very clean foundation or baseline when it comes to your PA or the room treatment or how the mixing console is set up. And that's where people start just tweaking nonstop, because they're trying to like put a Band-Aid on 5 other Band-Aids when all the Band-Aids should just be ripped off. And if they could just simplify the mix, I don't think you should have to do that much constant EQ and compression tweaking, especially maybe during rehearsal I do some, but man, I feel like during services especially, I'm not doing a whole lot other than writing faders.
Yep. Yeah, we kind of just started, and Joe is our tech director at Storyline, and he basically, when he joined the staff, he took over, all the audio oversight, and he did a lot of virtual sound check for like weeks on end with our different sources, and would just get them as fine-tuned as possible. And then, he saves all that into the template for our weekly show file. And then we show up, and the volunteer who's mixing that week really, you can tweak a plugin or something on Waves, or, if you feel like you need more clarity somewhere, you can obviously adjust an EQ band. But, for the most part, again, it's writing faders, but we've spent that time really doing the virtual sound check piece to, dial in the microphones, dial in the settings, make sure there's no feedback. And that way, when services get rolling, even when line check and rehearsal gets rolling, all the gain is set. Everything is, stuff is setting or staying the same week to week. It should be pretty, fader involved and not. I could understand maybe some engineers feeling like they want like control or ownership over things, so they might come in and really want to tweak things. But if you've done the hard work up front, I don't think they should need to. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some folks mention like factors like how many people are in the room, humidity, temperature. It's like, okay, I'm not sure. I do think how many people are in the room on a given Sunday has probably the biggest effect. But what were you going to say, Adam?
Well, I'll just respond to that quick first. Is like, if you have a systems engineer that's there and all their job is to manage the PA system, maybe you're going to consider the amount of people in the room and the humidity and make adjustments to the PA. But I mean, not if you're just at a 500 person or 1,000 person church building, you're not going to be like tuning the room depending on how many people are in there and what the temperature is outside. But I was going to say if I think about the last year, 2 of the places that I mixed that stick out in Colorado is at Luke's church. Walking in and having the PA tuned really well, like the musicians having good instruments and playing well, all of those presets already there. It made it really fun and enjoyable and not stressful at all to mix. And then I think of someone else on the Churchfront team is in a band and they played at Mission Ballroom, and like I pull his kick up, there's no processing on it yet. And it just sounds amazing. You know what I mean? Like I just pull the fader up to Unity. I'm like, that's it. That's the kick, Obviously during the mix, I was making adjustments as we went. But when you start off with a good source in a room that's tuned properly, you shouldn't have to do tons and tons of work.
Agreed. And that's where, again, we've seen it time and time again, Band-Aid over Band-Aid over Band-Aid. And then it's just a complete mess. And that's where I think people just get lost in the constant tweaking. So I agree. Everybody who said, hey, it's constant, there is constant tweaking and dialing. Like, yes, it's a dynamic process. But I think Larry probably was asking more about the putting the Band-Aids on all the time. And that just leads to more and more entropy.
Yeah. If you're not a part of the Churchfront Facebook group, hop in there because there's some good conversation and good hot takes in there sometimes. So feel free to.
And there's just very, very smart people in here helping each other out. Like it's, yesterday, I think Drake Kelch was like answering someone's question about video stuff, right? So it's like Drake, if you guys don't know, he's doing like all the video system design and operation for, I think it was Carrie Job and those guys on their last tour, the Summer Nights tour. So it's funny, the group like this, don't underestimate the amount of just like awesome expertise you can get for people to chime in on stuff once in a while.
Yep. Cool. Hey, as we move on to the next segment, there's no good segue for this besides that Adam Baranek has found yet another amazing tool to have in kind of your tool belt as a worship or tech leader. So Adam, why don't you tell us about this ingenious idea?
Yeah, and I feel like you're hyping it up quite a bit. It's just a Velcro that's the same on both sides. So I was helping one of our students in California, and I was like, hey, pick up some double-sided Velcro because it's useful in tons of applications. He's like, I actually use this on my pedal board. And so he's like, this is called dual lock, and it's the same on both sides. So you can see this little mushroom design. So you don't have to worry about having the right amount of hook and loop. And then it's got a sticky side. And I'll say this is one of my favorite applications for this. This is the back of the multi-view in my office here. But this is what I do anytime I'm sending an SDI feed to a TV. So be it your main screen, confidence monitor, lobby TV, we've got our converter here. You pull SDI into it, you push your HDMI out, use a short HDMI cable and a short USB because most TVs have a 5-volt power output. And then I had Velcro, but once you have dual lock, you can use that too. It just keeps it super clean, instead of having the converter on the stand somewhere and having longer cables and also have to pull power to it, send power to the TV and then pull power off of the TV. So I know that we do this at South Fellowship as well on our multi-views in the tech booth, and I've done it in most places that I've done an install where there's TVs. So just really handy stuff to have, keeping this on. Same thing with like Velcro ties, that Velcro floor cover stuff that we use whenever someone has a carpeted stage. So keep things clean. It'll make your life better.
Love it.
We could do a whole section on studio design, and Adam could do all his unique findings over the years.
That's why we all pay the big bucks for the Churchfront show, folks. Right there. There's the value. Hey, I want to talk about Churchfront Live because this is going to be the last stream really until or at least Churchfront show episode before that. So guys, check out Churchfront Live. We've got a great schedule. We're kind of nailing down the details here. Tuesday, October 17th is day 1. Wednesday, October 18th is day 2. You can get tickets both in person and online. So when you go to the register page, you'll see there's the 2 options here. The top one is in person. And if you have more than a certain amount of tickets, you'll get group pricing on that. And then down here, you'll see the live stream. Same concept applies there. But it's going to be fun. We've got such a great lineup. Nathan Finocchio on theology and worship. Elias Stummer on the worship music industrial complex. Jesse Robertson on worship and creative. Cade Young on sound and live streaming. Will Johnson on music theory. David Faltzgraf on also musicianship with your team. We've got Q&As. We've got Hangout at Pindustry. It's a cool local place here in Littleton. And then day 2, Ryland Russell. Everybody knows Ryland, the other YouTuber. Actually, probably not everybody, but most of you guys should. If you're not subscribed to him, you should go subscribe. And then we've got Kent Morris. He is from Sweetwater, as well as the tech director, sound engineer. He's been at the Chuck Stanley Church, the First Baptist Atlanta. So he's been there for years and just so much great wisdom experience there. Daisy Brinkman coming back again, delivering the awesome talk or another version of talk similar to what she did last year. And then Michael Curtis talking about making every dollar count when it comes to upgrading sound. He's also another great YouTuber. Check out his channel. And then we got all these breakout workshops happening down here. So there's so much phenomenal content, so much fun networking. This is the highlight of our year here at Churchfront. We get so exhausted afterwards, but it's totally worth it. So we're excited. I want to give you guys a heads up though, especially if you're watching this in mid-September, we may have to put a cap on ticket sales because I'd say 300 people max is about what we want to have here in attendance. And we're already like 2/3 of the way there right now. And most of the sales come in usually this last month. So if you're going to get your tickets now. Use early bird to get 10% off. That expires before October 1st. Then there's going to be no more discounts left. You'll just have to pay the full price on it. But yeah, check out Churchfront Live. Anything you guys want to add, Adam or Luke, about that?
I'm just excited.
Fun. Yeah.
So excited. So fun.
It's just like we get to, the 3 of us were remotely working right now. All the people like Michael Curtis or Cade that we talk to remotely. Like I just saw a shot of Frank from Pro Church Lights. Like we get to hang out with all these people in person. And it's just like a big family get together, That's a
huge benefit is that, the attendees are able to rub shoulders with these guys too. They get like one-on-one kind of time to just have conversation with these guys. And so, I feel like we talked to either a student in the accelerator program or somebody online who was at the conference, met Pro Church Lights or met Sunday Sounds or, and they just, that built that relationship. And I think that's so much more fun than doing an email thread, or filling out an interest form online. Like it's so great. And I think it allows faster results and also just a more, relational connection there between those guys. So, the people who are coming, Nathan Finocchio, Jesse Robertson, Michael Curtis, these guys are all top tier people. They are incredibly talented. You should feel the privilege of hanging out with these guys. They're incredible.
Yep. Love it. So come to Churchfront Live. Link down below. Go to churchfrontlive.com. We'll see you guys soon. What's the deal with these preamps, Adam?
Yeah, so I just stumbled upon this the other day when I was looking at helping a student put together, okay, what inputs and outputs do they need, stage boxes for their setup. And I saw, what is this? And it looks like, are you guys familiar with like lunch boxes, like the outboard analog gear in studios?
Yeah.
It's this very similar size. They'd usually be vertical, but it's just like this little box. You could put whatever outboard gear you'd want to have in. So it's the same concept. You have these 4 slots. You can put 8-channel inputs or outputs in it, and then it becomes your I/O. So, and these are like high-end preamps, right?
How much are they?
I don't know if I saw a price on them. I just saw the description and I was like, oh, this is for people that are like miking an orchestra maybe, or they just want to really up their game on their vocal preamps. Like they're trying to get
$2,800 for that 8-channel preamp.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's different than, these are different than what comes in the normal stage box configuration for something for Allen and Heath.
Yeah. So it's $350 a preamp.
Wow.
So this is like if you're like Jesse at Red Rocks and you're like, man, I've got the system dialed in, I've got my mix great, like the drums are tuned, and I just really want to upgrade my sound, and the next step in that is upgrading the preamp, then maybe this is a good fit for you. If you are at a church and you don't have a $500,000 sound system in a perfectly tuned room, this probably isn't going to get you the most ROI, but it's a pretty cool concept, and I really appreciate just the flexibility of it. So maybe we'll see a less expensive version of this. Maybe we'll see other manufacturers do a similar thing, and that could be really useful for people that want to have a lot of stereo in-ear outputs and they don't need as many inputs, or they need to have extra inputs for a special event or something like that. But it's just an interesting concept.
Well, and I would imagine that this would be cool for somebody who might be considering recording an album. Like if you were wanting to capture really high quality audio into your inputs, like you could use something like this to capture that audio in a high quality way. I'm trying to figure out like you said, it's not for the small, church who's, in an untuned room and that kind of thing. But I'm trying to picture, like we see these examples on Allen Heath's website of just live shows. And so I'm thinking like, okay, so this really is for, audiophiles. Like it's your average church is not going to hear probably the difference behind this. But if your goal was to capture the highest quality you could with that kind of a system, this is a great option. What else could you put in this lunchbox? Like these 8 pre's. Could you put anything else in there, or is it just these racks of 8?
So inputs and outputs. So they have both.
Yeah.
And one thing on the other page was it was talking about the power. So they had 2 power supplies. So something about coupling AC and DC power, 32-bit DAC technology, 96K. So it's definitely, like you said, audiophile level stuff. But
look at the I was gonna say, look at you to learn more about the options. If the DX32 page here, this shows cool. This is like the expansion chassis that you're putting these cards into, right? It's kind of like a sonnet for sound preamps, and it works with D-Live, Avantis, SQ. You've got here it is. These are all your options. So maybe I don't know if these are like what the difference is between some of the M series versus the Prime. Maybe the M is not quite as a premium, I would guess.
Interesting.
But yeah,
interesting.
I might chat with our. I'll chat with our Allen and Heath rep and see if we could try some out. Kind of dive deeper into it.
That is a really cool. I mean, we say this every time we talk about Allen and Heath, but they're everything IO. When they release a product and it works with all their other products, I mean, it's that makes it so easy to be flexible and scalable. Like the fact that you can buy that and you can plug it into your SQ. I mean, that is incredible. So that's really fun.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for watching this episode of the Churchfront Show. Check out churchfrontlive.com to get those tickets. And of course, if you want to work with our team, if you want to have Adam and Luke come out to your church so we can work with you remotely and on site, go to worshipministryschool.com, apply to join the program there, and let's hop on a phone call. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, the podcast, and share it with your friends. And we'll see you next time.